that would really fit with that regenerative culture. Relationship skills. This is kind of what the self-organizing system is trying to kind of engender within in an uncomfortably corporate way, a businessy way. This kind of, for me anyway, it's uncomfortable. For many people, maybe that's their more comfortable place. But what's unusual about Extinction Rebellion is that we're bringing our personal lives, what really matters to us about life itself, into the business place. So the passions and the emotions of it rise really powerfully, and that's where we're easily triggered. So recognizing that this is somewhere that actually we're consciously bringing our personal life with our business life, it takes a very special set of skills to that we're not practiced with, to engage both on a personal level and in a kind of responsible business-like way in meetings. So it's I think
so it's really speaking to that personal part, that hey, you can bring your whole self, your real deeper self, to the your personal experience and feelings, and to the group and into XR.
No, maybe it's more about it's bringing your personal kind of responsibility about how you behave to something that we're not normally so encouraged to be responsible about, because business-like behavior is different from kind of empathetic relationship behavior. You work much harder at your personal life and your personal relationships than you do in your business relationships. I think most people do. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I just want to be sure I'm getting it. Are you saying that there's something about personal responsibility, that you want to bring your personal responsibility to XR?
The way that you want, the kind of ongoing work that we put into our relationships at home that really matter to us. There seems to be a different set of rules to what you do in your work life about relationships. You will go to, to have things sorted out, or there's a different set of rules about how we behave. But this time we're taking, our personal stand for life into the workplace. And so
you want to take that personal,
I also want to take,
those personal relationships, that personal working on yourself personally, you want to bring that into the work environment, or sort of like a sense of integrity.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So there was something about speaking to that, like you'd like somehow to kind of speak.
In the bit that you talked about as relationship skills, I think that's really important to kind of, these are relationship workplace skills that this time also are very personal. And the life standing for, that, and the next bit was directly linked with the conflict resilience team. The nurtures emotional healing links with the long-term emotional well-being circle. And I loved your empathy as is revolutionary. And I wondered if you could think of a way that empathy could be an act of rebellion. In that weak definition between inspiring a revolution and being a movement for rebellion. I'm just linking that with XR.
Yeah.
I really like the way you explained when you were talking about how many in a circle. I like that you unfolded, why it works in the number that you suggested. And the last bit, in your photographs of people, while I really get that is nice and easily explained. I'm looking at also at how this could be appealing to our youth, to our kind of, 11 to 25-year-olds, 11 to 30-year-olds. And I'm wondering if a really kind of somebody could use some amazing graphics of faces that would be really engaging for the youth to make this feel a bit more, just something that visually they might be more drawn to. I don't know if that's occurred to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is sort of the first sort of a general outline that can be tweaked for different topics. It's so there could be, this is just getting the basic framework down, and then it can be made specifically like for XR, more XR specific, like you're talking. So those are, really helpful. It could be for a family, like empathy circles in the family. So I'm just trying to, this one is sort of the more broad, general introduction to empathy circles, and then to kind of be able to tweak it for different, modify it. Just trying to get the main concepts, the overall concepts, like, the benefits, why, what is it, how, and then it can be tailored to more specific, like for XR. The number 4, which is what you might experience, that was a place for holding, which is probably too much for here, but is for, like, people feel anxious taking part. That was one of the topics. Like, I feel anxious taking part. I might not do it right, or hey, I don't feel really heard, fully, or all the different things that might come up. That was sort of the area for all those different things. So anyway, so this is the first presentation I've given of this. So it's kind of on to keep iterating, keep working, keep refining, and getting feedback, and keep modifying it. So
yeah, well, thank you. I think that's you've done a great job of giving it clarity and getting it all down in a very understandable way. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for the feedback. I see Laura had to go, but she left a message that enjoy that expectation management from feeling fully heard. Wondering if there were a tad too many introductory quotes. If that you really value the end of to end the PowerPoint for summary enforcement purposes off. Yeah, so I think just there was quite a few quotes there. I think she's saying to put something at the end, some kind of a quote at the end, maybe, for, if I understand it correctly. So, okay, well, that was great. Thanks for that. I've been working on this for a while. So, yeah, Carolina.
Well, I don't want to make a full feedback. I just want to make a small impression. I know how difficult it was I can imagine how difficult it was to create such a short, more or less short introduction. It's really hard because I know your knowledge, and to make it short and just essence of everything is very, very hard job to do. I'm struggling with such thing all the time, and I know how talkative I am, and it's always doesn't work in my case, so I'm impressed. However, I had this feeling that you were reading.
Mm-hmm. I was.
And it was kind of monotonous. I didn't feel like you focusing on us listeners. So I felt a kind of lack of, engaging in relation with us listeners. That's what I missed in your presentation. I understand that this is the first presentation. It was kind of difficult for you because you have to get oriented in everything. So it's not easy, but I felt lack of it, kind of. I didn't feel that you explain it to me. You are explaining it to me. It was like you reading it. So I didn't.
Yeah, it's for more connection. If I kind of
Yeah.
wasn't reading it, I was kind of more being aware of you as the audience. There'd be more of a
Yeah.
feeling of connection and sort of, yeah, that's.
And
Yeah.
I have one more. There was one more thing. You were repeating in some part. You were repeating the same thing. When there was those pictures with speaker, active listener, and actually I saw myself with my hair. That was interesting to see myself with her. And you were explaining tips for speaker and listener in this part, and then you repeated that later on. So you lost some time, you wasted some time you could use for speaking more slowly, more comfortably, explaining something, you would feel much better. So you have to, I think you need to decide where you want to put those tips. There was kind of repeating that. You probably noticed that because it was kind of, yeah. And I have one question. Why don't you use Carl Rogers' definition of empathy? I love it.
Where? You mean put it in?
I don't know, but it's kind of great introduction what we want to achieve. I love this. It kind of
walking
builds
with someone.
Yeah. It builds kind of climate for what might happen there. It's beautiful. How he explained that we have to suspend our own word and get into the word of our speaker and be completely there. I love this definition when he says that. I don't know if it's possible to use it in such short presentation, but
well,
I felt like okay.
He has
sorry,
a
thank
metaphor. He has sort of a more in-depth suspending. It gets a little bit deep, but he has a simple metaphor, which is you're accompanying someone on their journey, and you're sort of following them where they're leading. So that's sort of a metaphor of the listening, which I think it's nice to have a metaphor. So it's
well, so maybe it's just the thing that I have to feel that you explaining it to me. If you do that, that would be great. Hello, Laura. So yeah, that's what I missed.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. Yeah, I felt a little nervous. This is my first time.
I felt that.
So it's like when I'm nervous, I speak faster.
Yeah.
If I give the presentation several times, I've sort of incorporated. Then I'll feel more comfortable. But that's good to yeah.
I'm sending to you my empathy. I'm thinking about you. I know that you. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's really good. It's really helpful. Yeah, Bill, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Real quickly, I noticed that when you had people, there were no black or brown people in there. So, like, for instance, you probably could use Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Thurgood Marshall, and a few other, so just to mix it up. Because I was going off of April's thing with the young people, which I think in the first. You see a group of young people doing it. I think as you go along, but don't stop yourself. I mean, put it out there. I think it's really strong, in the main, and any mistakes can be corrected,
Yeah, it's that iterative. I just see it, got to start somewhere. We just keep iterating and keep, it's just sort of a starting point. Yeah.
Do we have some black people, I don't know if it's correct, politically correct. I'm sorry, I don't know this old stuff with political correctness. Sorry for that. So do we have such people among our participants? Do you have any pictures?
We really don't. There were some people from,
yeah.
So you want that diversity. So age, race, gender, so that is something to work on.
Yeah.
April?
Yeah, sorry. I guess, and it isn't just like, one of those things like, oh, that's something to work on at a later date. I would definitely speak up from Extinction Rebellion's point of view. It actually takes effort to work towards the inclusivity of the global majority, and really recognize that it does take. It is actually a responsibility to reach out our kind of preconditioned sea of what we see within our vision, and to reach outside of that, and to give. It's like calling in. It's like Mickey Cashtan's kind of calling in. If we want to see the global majority people stand with us, we really need to call them in. It's actually a very long time that we haven't been standing with them. That's where the the disconnect lies. So we've been blinded in the way we've been brought up to think it isn't as important as it is. So yeah, I would highly encourage that. Thank you for starting that and encouraging, definitely in your last 4 photos, that there's a diversity of races and where the places that come from. This is what we.
Yeah, it's becoming a little difficult to hear you. There's sort of a background humming, but I do hear that the importance of sort of outreach and inviting, kind of a diverse global community, into this. So that's definitely that's one of the intentions, definitely. Okay, well, we could move on then. Thanks so much. And maybe Carolina, you'd like to talk, you were next on the agenda to.
Well, I didn't expect that I will be talking about my experience last week. So I'm kind of not really prepared to that, but I will try to explain what happened last week. I was in a climate camp in Poland. The camp was built in very close to few open pit mines in Poland. And one purpose of this climate camp was to gather activists from different movements, organizations in Poland. But there were also activists from other countries, not many, but there were some dozen English-speaking foreigners. And there was group of XR activists in this camp, but also other organizations. And actually there was first meeting of XR activists together in Poland, because we are in a phase of self-organizing. So I was there because I am a member of XR, but I also decided to show to people and to serve to people with empathy circle. So I had a lot of experiences. I decided to, because there was 5 days, it was 5 days, and I decided to organize empathy circle every day at the same hours, so people can experience some kind of stability, because in such a camp there is a lot of workshops, lectures, a lot of chaos and fuss, and everybody is very occupied. So I decided, okay, I have to establish 1 hour. People have to know that there is always at the same time an empathy circle, so they can come and start talking, start listening to each other. And the other thing was I made my shirts with empathy on them, and it was a great idea because I was walking all the time. I was in those shirts, so people were seeing me, and even out of those hours for empathy circle, they were approaching me, they were asking questions, asked me for explaining to them what it is, how it works. So it was great. I remember that many people, the problem with such place is that everybody is in kind of mode for action, because we were preparing to protest. One was fully legal. It was just a march toward an open pit mine, and there were participants like children and young children, elders, different genders, different age people, and it was quite peaceful, very peaceful, and the most important thing, it was legal. The other one was typical civil disobedience, non-violent direct action, and the other group entered open pit, tried to kind of occupy the equipment there. They gain stopping the machines, the infrastructure for 2 hours. All of us, there was a huge police response to that, and we always were kind of controlled and included into police portfolio. So now they were kind of checking us, all of us, no matter in which protest you were participating. They were stopping our buses, they were flying helicopters over us, a lot of police engagement, which was kind of curious, strange, because at least one protest was very, very calm, just marching and singing and shouting some slogans. So that's how it looked like. And as you see, it was kind of, people were in a mode for action, not in the talking mode. So it was difficult to do empathy circle, but anyway, I tried. And what I discovered, there is enormous need for talking and being listened, being heard. That was amazing thing. I want to say something I observed. There were also workshops like psychology for climate, and during this workshop we discover, we were exercising what we think, what we feel, and we figure out that all of participants, all of them of this workshop, had depression or some state or emotional states that are close to depression. They were activists. All of them were activists with depression. Depression. And we obviously ask ourselves, how about others who didn't come to this workshop? And the immediate answer of all the participants was, they are in anger. Which I remember Bill told me that might be a mask for depression. So we have situation when we have a lot of activists truly engaged in fighting climate crisis, and all of them are truly traumatized. all my talks and listenings and empathy circle were about trauma those people appeared. We didn't talk in empathy circle on any political issue, climate issue, nothing like that. All of them were coming to the circle to talk about their trauma. And there were different traumas, personal situation, family situation, but there were also trauma connected to the economic situation, their social situation, and the threat of climate crisis, climate catastrophe. They were truly traumatized by image, what visualization, what can happen to them. Many of them decided to not have children because they think they don't want to bring to this world new sentient beings to live in catastrophe. So there was a situation when I faced a lot of trauma of activists from kind of climate exploitation intertwined with socio-economical exploitation. They are kind of intertwined. And I think they are very sensitive people. And that's why they see this climate injustice and they want to do something and they engage in activity. But that's what makes them also easy to traumatize, to victimize. This sensitivity, I hope I use right word. This vulnerability, I'm sorry, makes them easy to be victimized, but also make them active and fighting for change. And the same, and there is another aspect of it, the activity, for example, in XR, also creates many conflicts, trauma. For example, during the protest, police attack, there were girls who came back from the nonviolent disobedience truly in shock. They were shocked. I had to hug one of them for a very long time to help them calm down. He was truly physically and psychically traumatized by the situation, but by what happened to her. So there is many aspects of this trauma activist experience, and I truly believe that empathy circle is the response to that, great response to that. And I see it as just the moment when you can be heard, you can say, you can release everything that is the whole tension in you, but there is also kind of reconnecting with others. If you do empathy circle with other activists, for example, during the debriefing, you can create connection to each other. You can hear each other and feel each other. This is very important for affinity group, for example, who go to the action and then come back and need debriefing, but not just a formal debriefing, what happened, what we have to change, and that, etc., but also emotional debriefing. So empathy circle for me is kind of healing individually, but also as a community. That's how I see it. And I stopped there because I'm talking and talking, and I can talk for next few hours. So I stopped there.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Steve. So yeah, what should we do? Any feedback on that, or open the question about your experience? Because I know we had that call where you were at the camp and you were kind of traumatized and stressed, And so we were
Yeah.
doing an empathy circle with you, and it seemed to sort of help with the connection too.
Yeah, I ask you because, you know, there was a situation when I was alone as a facilitator, and well, people just start this method. They didn't really understood that I'm a human as well, and I need empathy as well. So I'm not just the person who will listen to them. I also need to be heard, and we have to kind of find balance. It's mutual relation. It's mutual relation between us. So I didn't achieve that yet because it was just the beginning. So I need to kind of supervising from you, Edwin, Bill. I need to talk to somebody to find empathy and find support from you. That's what happened to me. Of course, I was traumatized during this camp too. Yeah, not so deeply, but yeah, I feel stressed a lot.
Well, I think that is that quality of support. You know, you can have a support network. It can be through, you know, Zoom, where you can get, you know, your support for yourself,
Yeah.
and develop a local group where you can, you know, develop. And so we need to create this whole support, you know, connection, listening support network. So, yeah.
Can I hear the kind of feedback or whatever you think from Laura and April?
Mhm.
I'm curious what you think about it, what I just said.
Hello.
Hello.
No hablo inglés. I am not speaking English. Solo only here.
Okay.
I am working with focusing. I am focusing trainer. Only individual sesiones individuales. I use the empatía in the session.
Well,
And
glad you could join us. There's another person, Laura, with the same name, so I was a little confused. I thought you were her. Who she left a little while ago. So yeah, focusing is great. Focusing is a, you know, very empathic process, and I think something that we really want to incorporate too. You know, for kind of a deeper empathic connection, you know, focusing is, you know, really helpful. If people aren't familiar with focusing, the process was started by Gene Genlin, who is a grad student with Carl Rogers, and he studied like in therapy, why do people have, some people have growth and kind of change, and then others don't. And so he really studied where that change kind of happened in, you know, doing the empathic listening therapeutic within that context. And his finding was the people who grew the most, kind of worked through their issues, were the ones that talked about their felt experience, right? It's like what is happening to them in the moment to moment as the speaker. So this is the focusing is a really great tool for the empathy circle for the speaker to actually go deeper. We haven't covered that much, but it's something, you know, farther down, we definitely want to kind of build on that, because yeah, April, sounds like you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
April, can you change the position of microphone, because
is it any better? It's right by my mouth now. Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and I know some of the folks that went with XR to Poland, and it was wonderful to hear you talk and to know that there was that space for some of them. I also really recognize your acknowledgement of, you know, the fragility, the vulnerability, and the trauma, you know, that shows up as people step into risk together. and I am not, you know, I can't imagine it could be any other way. When you look at the traumas that we have walked through, you know, together and separately, but as a human species, you know, we have come to the brink of the kind of the almost physical embodiment of all these traumas. They're showing up right in front of us in our kids' faces. Instead of kind of years down the line, the trauma that we've been living through is right here in front of us, staring us back in the eyes. Those kids are the kind of living embodiment of these, of the kind of ancestral traumas that we have stepped through and trodden all over each other in. So for me, you know, empathy circles can clearly be one of the many steps that are needed to support each other through this, because there isn't any other way. We have to step together into action, trauma and all that that will bring. You know, so reaching for tools like this and how we expand that and roll it out and make it become like, you know, practice, like people do meditation on their own to make themselves, you know, able to cope. Let's, you know, sit together in empathy circles as part of our daily life practice in how to communicate as humans better. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciate hearing about Poland, and I also see how this could be really useful on that front line, having a regular time and teams of empathy circle facilitators to help that happen and some way to support them. Yeah, that sounds reassuring. Thank you. Yeah, sorry.
Can I say something?
Yep.
Well, I didn't say one more thing. Well, I said about this workshop with a psychotherapist, and we were trying together with other participants to kind of figure out what's happening to us. And it was interesting that we discover spread depression among us or similar states. But there's one more thing. After the camp, we decided to stay together, few psychologists, psychotherapists, me, and few other people who participate, who engage in those workshops and my empathy circle. We decided to be together and to stay together and try to figure out how we can help activists. And we decide to create kind of first emotional response team. We call it first emotional aid or first emotional response team. And we still don't know how to do that, but we truly understand that we have to do something with that. We have to create some kind of practice. It is not about professional staff being engaged and in helping others, because that's kind of hierarchy system and kind of subjugating. We say subjugating, like doctors treating patients. No, that's not what we want to create. We want people to learn how to heal each other, like in prime tribes or traditional culture. People have some methods, practice, customs to heal each other together as a community. That's what we have to do. That's how I see that. I'm not sure if others see the same way, but that's how I think about it. We don't need specialists, professionals. Well, we need them, but not as somebody who will treat us, but as an advisor, maybe.
It's really that co-support. It's mutual or peer-to-peer, co-design, co-support mindset.
And this horizontal relation is very important in this healing process. that there is nobody over us. We try to connect each other and understand each other and hear each other. That's what has to happen to us. That's how we can build community inside the movement, and then spread this kind of relations outside the movement. Because I deeply believe that regenerative culture can't be just about creating good relations inside the movement and rebuilding, restoring my own identity, my feelings, my set of values. It's much more for me. It has to kind of go outside the movement. That's what I believe. April, can you say something about it? What do you think?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I really hear what you say, and I'm kind of like, I want to say, oh, I mean, okay, let me rethink. Let me refocus. My experience is that the movement, the community that we are creating within Extinction Rebellion is like a gateway modeling the exploration of how we do this new community living that we're all going to. One way or another, we're going to have to engage. And just getting the movement on board itself is a trial in itself, you know, is a whole kind of people willing to step forward and fail in front of everyone and be witnessed in not getting it right so that the next step can be better. So unrolling it simply within Extinction Rebellion, you know, calling people in, teasing them into stepping in and trying these new ways of engaging with each other. Believe me, that's going to be a hard enough job, and, you know, a beautiful, awe-inspiring journey to start that invitation. As far as rolling it out for everybody else, it's like, yeah, they're watching. That's the thing. This is the modeling. And whatever happens, lessons will be learned. And what moves on from that will be is unknown to me. Could you hear that? Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Carolina, you're muted.
I just want to thank you for this reflection. But I suppose you both and Laura maybe want to say something. I just want to occupy the whole time.
Okay.
Thank you, April.
Was there any feedback, or I want to be sure everyone has a chance?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, just I want to, you know, express my support. You know, I wasn't able to be on the call, and I wish I could have been. And I thought that Carolina, you know, really, what she demonstrated to me, which was inspiring, was the willingness, as kind of April talked about, is facing her own fears and working through the depression and not letting the depression is almost like this little a tyrant in your head that tells you this and this and this, and working through it. And when you overthrow the tyrant in your head, you go a long way towards overthrowing the tyrant in society.
Oh.
Okay, and for me, the empathy circle is a little bit of that modeling. You know, we haven't been using so much empathic listening, you know, formally here today, but it's when Carolina, when we were in the group with you, we were talking, and then we shifted into empathic listening,
Yeah.
and then I think that's where I think it started becoming more supportive. And
Yeah.
it's like, how do we create a little empathy circle as as sort of a model of that, of everyone being included, everyone having a voice. And so that's kind of the scope I see.
Yeah.
We can just have this scope, this simple thing, reproduce it, support people in using this practice. And then there's so many other practices too that can be brought in, but how do we just replicate as widely as possible this one first step kind of a practice? Because I thought when we were in the circle, it seemed like it was supportive for you.
Yes.
Right. It's like, I know the feeling. It's like you're just stressed. There's just nobody listening to you. The body is full of stress. And it's just like, oh, I can share it with somebody, and it kind of like eases that, stress and tension in my body, at least.
I'm talking too much, but I need to respond to what you just said. I see that we're still recording. So for the viewers, there was a situation when I was kind of overwhelmed by listening to all the trauma people experience in their life. That was one form of stress, and I was kind of collecting all the trauma, all the stress of them. I felt so sorry for their experience. I wanted to hug them. I wanted to cuddle them, help them somehow. That's what it was, rather sympathizing with them, that truly kind of empathy dialogue. That's how I felt when I was listening to them. And I truly was amazed by the beauty of those people, because in this very difficult situation, they were so ethical, so willing to be just and fair to each other, being fair and just to the world around them. They were very honest. That's amazing. And they were so stressed. So I was overwhelmed by all this situation. And in the same time, I had a conflict with one guy, and he used kind of my empathy on my shirt against me, kind of. And I did something that I'm struggling to not do. I interrupt him, and he kind of very strongly reacted to that. And I actually, after all situation, I began to cry, because I felt, gosh, what I did. And it was so horrible. And I realized, gosh, I have to call to both of you, Bill and Edwin. I need empathy. I need to talk to somebody. I need to tell somebody that I did mistake. Somebody I trust, and I know that those people will not judge me for what I did. I feel horrible with that. And knowing that there are people who will listen to me, and I can be honest with them and tell, yes, I did mistake. I interrupt my colleague, my friend. I shouldn't do that. He felt harmed by what I did. And I feel horrible with that, because we are all so sensitive. And I was crying. It was too much stress for me. So it was great to see people who are not judgmental to me, who trust that I have goodwill, good intentions. Sometimes I just do mistakes. So that's how it is important to give other people that opportunity.
Yeah, so it's building that support network.
Sorry, I'm talking too much. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for, is to discuss. So it's your time to talk. So, April, did you unmute?
I just wanted to respond to that, really, was the Dominic
position
Barter.
Of mic.
Yeah, Dominic, how about there? It's right in front now. Yeah, Dominic Barter talks about support, being the most important aspect. And actually, no, it's Oh, and not just after the event. I know he's talked about it before, and I still haven't kind of programmed it into my body to actively reach out for support before something important comes up. I'm still kind of flailing around just before something important comes up, going, oh, I feel terrible, I don't know what to do. And, reaching, today I had a really important one come up, and I made a point of making time with somebody I knew would help me get to the heart of what matters to me about the important conversation coming up. And interestingly, what happened in the conversation wasn't particularly satisfying. It didn't feel finished. I didn't feel fully heard. I don't think he felt fully heard. However, the next conversation afterwards totally released that. I had another support call straight after the difficult one. And so to sandwich it between two supports was incredible, that I had the support going in, and then coming out I managed to have a much bigger release of tension and support in the support call afterwards. So yeah, I really appreciate that reminder of how empathy circles can help you fight that outside support. We tend to rely on our friends and family, be those supports. Wow, they're always there, they're fantastic. But what happens when you're in conflict with them? Or what happens when they're not around? And so actually actively reaching out for new supports in your life is really important. And empathy circles can definitely help build that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to add for recording that there was one more person who helped me listening to me. It was Stu Basden, who was there in Poland in our camp. He is a co-founder of XR in UK, as I understand. And he also kind of figured out that I feel kind of stressed, and he was very useful. I just want to help him. If he will hear that, I want to thank him.
I'll go in person next time I see him.
And yeah, great guy.
Stu was one of those I was hoping that I knew he would have found his way to in Poland. So thank you.
So, okay, I want to keep us on time too. It's at an hour and a half. Is there, I think April, you'd wanted to share something, so I'm fine with staying longer too if there's more that you're wanting to share. And I guess there's also the question of sort of what's next. We have our meeting tomorrow. Maybe talk a little bit about that too, but April?
I don't think I had anything specific. I am deeply appreciative of the richness of the conversation. I wasn't quite sure what I was turning up to today. I thought it was an empathy circle kind of practice, and actually I've been delightfully engaged in this dialogue, and maybe I guess one thing I can really see this being used in an exploration I'm hoping to take on with Extinction Rebellion, which is exploring their values and principles in a much different way. And I think that empathy circles, taking empathy circles out to local groups and communities on the topic of specific values and principles and filming that, we could get some really rich, full-hearted opinions of people about, to unfold what these principles and values mean to us, instead of one sentence and the kind of terms and conditions click we do to join. Actually, it's some kind of deeper unfolding. This would help that as well. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
What I'm hearing there is you're seeing that you could take empathy circles, could go out to the different XR groups, and there could be a discussion about values and principles, sort of like you were doing. It was a little bit like in the conflict group, like let's just talk about what comes up around conflict. So sort of like that. Yeah. That would be great. Yep, Carolina.
Can I say something about the agenda for the future meetings?
Yep.
Some suggestion. I see few situations when we can use empathy circle. I see in the escalating conflict inside the movement. I see it in regenerative culture. I see it in NVDA. I see the place for empathy circle in NVDA or other street actions that are close to breaking law or kind of disrupt other people. And I see the place for empathy circle, but I see the need to discuss that. Is it possible? How it is possible? I need to hear experience of you in UK, what you experience and how we can try to exercise the possibility. So I would like to talk about it.
Yeah, I put in a link here. There's on the XR Empathy Circle Workgroup Hub website, there's a Google Doc where you can post like implementing, possible ways to use empathy circles in XR. So there is a list. And so maybe having a discussion just going down that list, like because there's a real challenge, right? It's like, if people aren't familiar with it, they don't know how to do it, they get bored with it or whatever, or they want to do action. So it's a real, how to implement it, the logistics of implementing it and, the reality of implementing the practice is, there's a lot of challenges. So talking about those challenges. And so maybe we could maybe that's something for next time. We can go down this list, and you can add any more. It's a open Google Doc, so you can go in and add any comments to it. That might be a good topic for next meeting.
Yeah.
So, like I saw one, yes. Okay.
Bill,
okay.
April.
I won't. Is it a weekly meeting? Because I won't be next week. I won't be around next week.
Okay.
After that, I'll be able to join again.
You can add anything to that document if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing, what we do with Tuesday meeting, do we want to intercept that?
Let's see, I could go to the next two.
April, you probably know something about this meeting. We were talking on the beginning of our meeting.
So the Tuesday conflict call, I didn't realize it's been set up ongoing. We were used to having them in the week before, and so in fact we haven't advertised them. I didn't get any. Is why you didn't get any takers last week, I imagine. I will speak to the internal coordinator about putting a little note onto the Facebook group and mentioning for the next programmed ones, if you have capacity to provide somebody who could show up for those, that we would offer practical, experiential instead of the conflict calls for the next couple of weeks, while the conflict resilience team is sorting out what they want to do next.
Yeah, I'll show up.
Oh, that would be great.
And just introduce the empathy circle and say, okay, around conflict, let's show, this is like a practice, and you can bring up whatever is alive in people. And if you have some other, more organizing with the team there, you can keep us in mind for anything too.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. So I've stepped out of the conflict resilience team at the moment, and I'm looking at ways of exploring different angles, and I know that the conflict resilience team is still desperately in need of support, so I would definitely link you up with whatever new form it takes.
Okay.
Find a route to linking you in. Great. I know they all the support you get.
Okay, then that'd be great. And so I think that's it. We have tomorrow, but we can do that online. I mean, via chat or something. I don't know. I had thought of doing the presentation again tomorrow. So is that too much for you both, or?
No, I understand where you are, and go right ahead.
Okay. Okay, good. So then that'll take up 20, 30 minutes there. Kind of getting.
By the way, thanks for using a smiling face rather than my resting bitch face.
Well, we had you the authority figure. Okay, well, Laura, did you want to? I just see your videos on. Do you want to check in with anything before we close?
Gracias.
De nada. Okay, then we'll be back next week, and then tomorrow we have a Empathy Circle tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So if anyone wants to join us for that, so you can also message me. Okay, well, great seeing you, April.
Turn off recording.
Oh, turn off the recording. That's right.